Hello trainers, Professor Palm here, and welcome back to We Are the Champions. It's been a while since I've done this, and I'm glad to be doing it again. I'm also happy to say I'm joined by the creator of the series herself, the brilliant Professor Sassafras.
What's up? I hope everyone and yourself, Palm, have been doing great. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I'm always glad to be back.
It's great to see you again, Professor Sassafras. I've missed you, but I hope that you've been having a nice summer. So, what have you been up to?
Missed you too. As for my summer, I've just been chilling, playing some Pokémon Unite since Inteleon came out, and have also just been passing the days working on some projects as well. I've even celebrated my birthday. How about you, Palm?
That sounds like fun, Professor. For me, a lot happened this summer. First, I went back to Summer Splash. Then I celebrated my birthday, and finally, I hit over 700 subscribers!
Hey, that's amazing! Congrats for that, Professor Palm. I'm always happy to hear some awesome news.
Thank you, Sassafras. So, since we're at it again with your wonderful series, I'm just curious to know, what champion should we cover today, champ?
How about your favorite champion from the series?
Wait, really? You want to cover my favorite champion?
Yeah, let's cover the elegant cut of a gem himself, Steven Stone.
Well, if I am to be honest, out of all 11 champions we currently have, there's one that really struck a chord the most with me. And it's the King of Stones from the Hoenn region himself, Steven Stone. I have a lot of respect for that guy.
I'll admit I love this champion too, albeit for other reasons. What makes him your favorite, Palm? I'm curious what he's done to keep that title as favorite for so many years.
Steven Stone has always been my favorite champion. Other than that incredible final room where you take him on, he delivers a wonderful, heartfelt speech to you about your entire journey, about all the challenges you've overcome, everything you've done, and then he asks you to bring it all for the final battle. Also, can I just mention how much I really love the fact that you team up with Steven Stone to take on both villainous teams, Team Magma and Team Aqua. I also just want to ask, can you think of any other champion that you've teamed up with in a tag battle?
Only a handful of others, but they never really tagged into the battle with you now that I think about it. What a brave guy, I'd tell you, for jumping in to stand by your side to fight.
Can we also talk about the music that plays for Steven Stone's final battle? Don't get me wrong, all champions have incredible music, just like Iris and Cynthia. But to me, Steven's has always been the most motivating, especially for this final battle. It doesn't just feel like you're having a final battle with a champion, but it feels like you're being filled with determination to climb up an incredibly tall mountain.
I can definitely agree. Steven's is just amazing and one that I could just listen to for hours. It definitely gives me a rush that isn't caused by, panic like Cynthia's, that's for sure. Oh, and not to mention, his team lineup is just an excellent choice for him too.
I also admire that Steven took a page from Lance's book, as he didn't just go with mixed Pokemon, he went with a single typing. Well, I guess two typings, as he went with both Steel type and Rock type Pokemon. He also really liked the idea better of having high defense rather than attack. Also, the fact that Steven currently is the only champion to use no dragon type whatsoever makes him a real standout.
That is true. He didn't use that strong type. It's pretty cool how he uses a quite common typing that is just a powerhouse in those fields, and still pack a punch.
Man, there's so much I can say about Steven Stone. He's an expert strategist, he has an amazing team, he doesn't rely on dragon type Pokemon, he uses defense more than offense. Ugh! Okay, I'm dialing it back. I'm really sorry to be a bit of a fanboy. It's just that Steven Stone is really one of a kind, and we have yet to meet another champion who takes a page out of his book, as there is no one else quite like him.
Oh, don't worry about that, Palm. I think I'll have the fangirling all covered when I cover him. Speaking of that, why don't we go ahead and get started covering this gleaming, elegant man and his team?
Yeah! Let's find out everything we need to know about Steven Stone, Professor. Let's find out all of his strategies, what makes him not only a great trainer, but a great strategist, and also what makes his challenge and his entire team as tough as bedrock. But before we do that... HTTP Koopa, I want to give you a very special thanks and shout out for my shirt. Today's shirt is the Steel type jersey. Since Professor Sassafras and I are talking all about Steven Stone, a man who specializes in Steel type Pokemon, I couldn't think of a better shirt to wear than this one. If you think I look good in this shirt, I think that you'll look even better. So please check out HTTP Koopa on Etsy. I have a link to his Etsy shop in the description below. And if you like these other jerseys I wear in my videos, I think that they'll look great on you too. He doesn't just do Pokemon jerseys, he does a lot of other amazing shirts. Not just Pokemon related, but also from other video games and other cartoons. So please check him out, buy a shirt, and remember to tell him Professor Palm sent ya. While I may not be sponsored, I still want to give a very special thanks to such a talented artist for what they've done for this channel. Well, Professor Sassafras, let's learn everything we need to know about the Man of Stones himself, Steven Stone. Let's learn everything we need to know about him as champion in the games and, of course, in the anime.
You got it. Let's dive right in and learn about this charming and handsome man. What should I even start with first? There's so much to talk and gush over. Oh, need to be professional here. Let's start off with Steven Stone in the games. Steven Stone made his first debut as champion of the Hoenn region in the 3rd Gen games. These include Ruby, Sapphire, and then appeared as the champion of the Hoenn region in the remakes Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. A special note for the 3rd Gen games was that in Pokemon Emerald, he wasn't the champion. That was Wallace. In that game specifically, he was more so a not-so-secret hard optional battle you can do. Anyways, in the games he first debuted in, you first encounter Steven by hearing from his father talk about him when he asked you to deliver a letter to Steven in Granite Cave. He was there searching for rare stones. You two have a small chat after you hand in the letter. He even compliments you and your team before he leaves. He even mentions how you could even work your way up to champion one day. Steven even gives you the TM47, which is Steel Wing here too. You could probably start guessing at this time what type specialist he'll be with the gift in his name. By the way, his name in Japanese is Daigotsu Abuki, which is a pretty cool name, but I'm not breaking into the etymology of it. You'll also encounter him next on Route 103 for a brief moment and discuss different types of Pokemon. The next time you'll see Steven is Route 120, where you reveal a camouflaged Kecleon with the Devon Scope to him. He'll next be seen at his house in Moss Deep, where Steven gives you the HM8, which is Dive. A small difference between Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald is that in Emerald, the next time you encounter Steven Stone is a teamed-up double battle against Archie and Tabitha of Team Magma when they had tried to rob the Moss Deep Space Center. Keep in mind, this is technically him not being champion in the game, but I like to have the small headcanon of him being champion at this time, but later on gives the title to Wallace. Again, this is a headcanon of mine, not true canon, so take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, once Groudon or Kyogre is awakened, Steven will appear and accompany you to Sutopolis, where he'll introduce you to Wallace. He will remain here at Sutopolis until the crisis at hand is resolved. The last encounter for Ruby and Sapphire is when you go and face the Elite Four and face off with Steven Stone for the title of champion. Now, Steven also appears in other mainline games and spin-offs. I'll focus on the mainline ones. He appears in the mainline in, of course, the remakes Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, where it mainly follows the original story, but there's a few changes, such as an extra time of seeing him in the main story where you first encounter Latias or Latios, and then, of course, there's the Delta episode. He also appears in Heart Gold and Soul Silver to investigate the appearance of Latios and Latios in Kanto. There's also Black 2 and White 2 when he competes in the Champions Tournament. Now that we're done looking into his appearances in the games, we can look into Steven's debut in the main Pokemon anime series. His first appearance in the anime was again by word of mouth from his father in the episode Stairway to Devon, who had mentioned him to Ash as a good person for them to know, and once again by Nurse Joy in the episode Witch Wurmple's Witch, who told Max that he was nearby in Granite Cave, which then the group set out to search for him. We then get his first physical appearance in the anime in the episode A Whole Lot of Trouble. I'd like to note that he was never mentioned as champion, and technically Wallace was claimed as champion, but this was later in the series within the Diamond and Pearl arc. However, we're still gonna talk about his debut in the episode because he's awesome and I love this man, and yeah. Anyways, Steven was seen digging in Granite Cave looking for rare stones as Ash's group in Team Rocket fell down a hole. The commotion causes Steven to stop his excavation and check out what it was. He first found Pikachu, Meowth, and Max, who were wandering around the cave. He helped escort them around the cave, given he knew the place very well from his time spent there, like months. Love me a man who knows his way around cave systems and stones. Anyways, they eventually see Ash and the others who were being chased by a group of upset Aeron. He shouts at them to rush over to a nearby waterfall. Once they all meet there, Steven uses his own Aeron to calm down the horde by using the move Roar. He proceeds to tell the wild Aeron that the group were good people and to go back to their roosts. Steven soon finds out though that Team Rocket were the ones behind making the wild Aeron angry, which he soon handled Team Rocket with his own Aggron, using Hyper Beam on them to cause them to blast off again. That's another time a champion used a Pokemon with Hyper Beam against a human. Anyways, afterwards, Steven found himself a Firestone! He decides to help lead the group out of Granite Cave and lead them to a deserted inlet. This place was ideal for Ash to train for his rematch with Brawly. Steven was satisfied with his haul of a rare stone and boards a small boat to continue his search for more exceedingly rare stones, and wishes the group good luck in the future. I just want to make an additional note of other parts of the Pokemon anime series he's been in as well. Actually, just the one spin-off that was the second Mega Evolution special, which, you guessed it, focused on Mega Evolutions. Steven reappears being seen battling Alan? I think that's how you pronounce his name. Anyways, using his shiny Mega Metagross. Talk about a flex. However, the battle was interrupted by Lysander. Steven decides to cooperate with Alan and his group, traveling to their destination, which was a small temple with 2 pillars in the center. He and Alan used their keystones at the monument, and a staircase of light appeared and led them further into the ancient ruins. They discover another similar-looking mechanism that summons a glowing giant rock from underneath the ruins. After Lysander and his research team began to analyze the stone, a flipping Rayquaza appears from the sky, turning into a Mega Rayquaza and wreaking absolute havoc around the area. Alan and Steven use their Mega Evolved partner Pokemon to fend off the legendary Sky Lizard, but are sadly overwhelmed. This series says Steven is the champion of Hoenn, which implies Wallace stepped down from the title in the sense of lore for the anime. I'm fine with this, however, because Steven is just perfect for the title. I mean, just look at him! Why is he so... He's in the rest of the special and even reappears in the main series. I'm not gonna go over all that in detail, but just look at him. He's so fine. I'm sorry. I need to control myself. Let's now look into some fun facts and tidbits you may or may not have known about this handsome man. First things first, he leaves the player in his house in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and the remakes a shiny Beldum. If the player has Steven's shiny Beldum, he'll reference Alan and the events of the Mega Evolution special during the Delta episode in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This reference is also repeated during the Hearts United story event in Pokemon Masters EX. In the Pokemon Journeys anime, he's the only member of the final Masters 8 to not use a flying or dragon-type Pokemon. It's implied that the villa in Diamond and Pearl is owned by him. In Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, along with the remakes, he states that his favorite Pokemon is Beldum and his favorite move is Steel Wing. Makes sense why he gives those to you now. In Emerald, when the player speaks to Steven in Meteor Falls before their battle, he mistakenly refers to battling alongside the player in Sutopolis Space Center, which is funny because the Space Center is in Mos Deep City. You'd think he'd know that since he lives there. His double battle with you against Maxie and Tabitha is the only occasion in the Generation 3 games where an ally teams up with the player for a double battle. Steven Stone's trainer ID number changes through the series. It's 61226 in Pokemon Emerald, 23478 in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and 11214 in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Steven shares his French name, which is Pierre, with Brock. In the French dub of the episode he debuted in, he keeps his English name so as to not be confused with Brock. However, once Brock wasn't traveling with Ash, he was referred by his French name, which is fully Pierre Rochard. In the French versions of the game, where he and Brock both appear, he is simply referred to as P. Rochard, or just Rochard. Despite being a Steel-type specialist, all of Steven's teams feature just as many or more Rock-type Pokemon. In the remakes, the rematch against the Elite Four, he's the only trainer in Hoenn to use a Pokemon from Gen 1, which was Aerodactyl. If the player skips obtaining the HM for Dye from Steven's house in Ruby and Sapphire by already having a Pokemon with this move from trading, Steven will include the HM alongside the gifted Beldum. Well, I think we spent enough time rolling stones with the build-up to the Steven Stone. It's time we take on the King of Stones himself of the Hoenn region. So tell us about the battle, how to prepare for it, and what we need, Professor Palm.
In Steven Stone's champion battle at the Evergrande City in the games Ruby, Sapphire, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire, Steven uses a team of 6 Pokemon. In all these games, he's never changed. And Steven's champion team includes his Skarmory, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Keen Eye, is male, is at level 57, and has the move pool of Steel Wing, Aerial Ace, Toxic, and Spikes, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Skarmory has the ability Sturdy, is a male, is also at level 57, and has the move pool of Toxic, Spikes, Aerial Ace, and Steel Wing. Claydol, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Levitate, has no gender, is at level 55, and has the move pool of Earthquake, Light Screen, Ancient Power, and Reflect, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Claydol has the ability Levitate, is genderless, is now at level 57, and has the move pool of Reflect, Extrasensory, Light Screen, and Earth Power. Aggron, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Sturdy, is male, is at level 56, and has the move pool of Earthquake, Thunder, Dragon Claw, and Solar Beam, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Aggron has the ability Sturdy, is male, is now at level 57, and has the move pool of Stone Edge, Iron Tail, Earthquake, and Dragon Claw. Credilli, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Suction Cups, is male, is at level 56, and has the move pool of Ancient Power, Sludge Bomb, Confuse Ray, and Giga Drain, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Credilli has the ability Suction Cups, is now female, is now at level 57, and has the move pool of Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb, Ancient Power, and Confuse Ray. Armaldo, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Battle Armor, is male, is at level 56, and has the move pool of Ancient Power, Aerial Ace, Slash, and Water Pulse, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Armaldo has the ability Battle Armor, is male, is now at level 57, and has the move pool of X-Scissor, Metal Claw, Rock Blast, and Crush Claw. And at long last, his ace, Metagross, who in Ruby and Sapphire has the ability Clear Body, holds the item the Citrus Berry, has no gender, is at level 58, and has the move pool of Meteor Mash, Psychic, Earthquake, and Hyper Beam, while in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it has the ability Clear Body and holds the item the Metagrossite, but it also Mega Evolves and has its ability change into Tough Claws. And it also has no gender, is now at level 59, and has the move pool of Bullet Punch, Meteor Mash, Zen Headbutt, and Giga Impact. All in all, Steven Stone will always begin his battle with his frontrunner, Skarmory, and he'll always end the battle, especially in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, with his mechanized master, Metagross. But only in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire will he end the battle with Mega Metagross. On an interesting note, Steven was the first champion since Lance to use a specific typing, as he primarily uses Steel types, but with Rock type added in. When looking at his team, you may see that there is an odd one out, and that of course is Claydol. You may think that it's a mistake that Claydol was added to Steven's team, But if you look very closely, you'll see it's not a mistake whatsoever. It's actually a real brilliant reason why Steven has it on his team. Even though the rest of his team are both rock and steel type Pokemon, if you look very carefully at everyone, you'll notice something, that Steven's team has both modern Pokemon and Pokemon from the prehistoric days, or the past. While I completely agree that Claydol is not from the Stone Age, like both Armaldo and Credilli, and it's also not a Pokemon that went past the Stone Age and is somewhat of a modern dinosaur, like Aggron, Claydol actually was the very first toy ever made for children back in the past, and it came to life. So, all in all, it may not be a prehistoric survivor, but it's a Pokemon that's been around since the beginning of time, when both people and Pokemon had bonds. Even with the odd typing of Psychic and Ground compared to the other Rock and Steel type Pokemon on Steven's team, I think he has the perfect blend of both past and future. So, in the end, not only is Steven's team a perfect fusion of future and past, it's also an incredible mix of both offense and defense. After seeing so many champions with strong Pokemon, it's nice to see a champion not just go for offense, but rather defense, just to show a strong defense can be just as powerful as a strong offense. I also respect Steven for not using a single Dragon-type Pokemon. While there were no Steel or Rock Dragon-type Pokemons back in time, Steven put together an amazing team. This just shows not just what a great trainer he is, but also what an expert strategist he is too. Going up against Steven Stone at the Evergrande City when you take on the Hoenn League may be tricky. After all, the man is as tough as stone, so you're gonna need a game plan. Well, here's some strategies when you go against Steven Stone for the final battle. Since Steven uses many Pokemon in his final battle that are both Steel type and Rock type, I'd say the best Pokemon and moves that you should use for this fight would be Ground type moves as well as Ground type Pokemon, Fighting type moves as well as Fighting type Pokemon, Water type moves as well as Water type Pokemon, Fire type moves as well as Fire type Pokemon, and Steel type moves as well as Steel type Pokemon. I would highly recommend Ground type Pokemon and Ground type moves in this fight, as almost all of Steven's Pokemon are weak to Ground type moves, and Ground type stands strong between both of Steven's preferred types of Rock and Steel. Oh, and since these Pokemon are rather heavy, you should aim for the ground beneath their feet and watch them go down. Remember, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Fighting type Pokemon and Fighting type moves can also really help you a lot in the fight, since almost all of Steven's team is either Rock or Steel, and in some cases with Aggron both. Fighting type can smash rocks to shards and break Steel type to scrap metal. Use these in the fight and you'll gain yourself the winning edge. Water type Pokemon and moves would also be great for this fight. After all, Rock type and Ground type do not take well to the raging waters. Since half of Steven's team is Rock, you already have half the battle won. These Pokemon and moves will make a big splash in the fight, and you'll bring Steven and his team down the drain. Fire type Pokemon and Fire type moves would also give you a huge advantage in the fight too. Since Steel type does not take well to heat, you can melt all of Steven's Steel types and make scrap metal out of them. Also, you can leave some of them burned with your Fire type attacks, so they can go down feeling the burn. And I would even say Steel type Pokemon and Steel type moves would really help you a lot in the fight, especially against Steven's Pokemon that are Rock type. Kind of ironic that you're taking on Steven, who's a Steel expert, with Steel type Pokemon. So, I guess you're in for a clash of the ages as strong as Steel. While Ground, Fighting, Water, Fire, and Steel type Pokemon and moves can really give you the edge in the fight, there are some other Pokemon and moves that can also help you out, but I'd list them as optional. The optional Pokemon that you should add to your team should be Pokemon that are Dark type as well as have Dark type moves, or Ghost type Pokemon that have Ghost type moves, or even get yourself a Sableye that's a mix of both. The reason why I see Ghost type Pokemon as well as Ghost type moves as optional for the battle is because, unlike the other typings, they're only super effective against 2 of his Pokemon. However, Ghost type Pokemon and Ghost type moves can really be helpful against his ace Metagross as well as his Claydol, mainly because Claydol can slow you down in setting up Light Screen and Reflect, raising the defense and special defense. So, using Ghost type Pokemon and Ghost type moves to get rid of that annoying Claydol can really speed up the battle. I would say the same thing with Dark type Pokemon as well as Dark type moves. These are optional to add to your team, They're good to have, but then again, they're only super effective on 2 of Steven's Pokemon, being both his Claydol and his Ace Metagross. But if you really want to get rid of that annoying Claydol quickly, and you may want to take on that Metagross without much hassle, definitely add these Pokemon to your team, because they'll definitely bring the darkness to Steven. Wait a minute, it just hit me! Before we take on Steven, we have to take on Elite Four Ghost-type expert Phoebe in the Elite Four at the Evergrande City. So yeah, adding yourself a Dark-type Pokemon or a Ghost-type Pokemon, or both with Sableye, really can be helpful for the battle. However, this is still optional, and if you don't want to use it, that's perfectly fine. Well, trainers, why don't we review? When we go to take Steven Stone on at the Evergrande City, he uses a team of Pokemon that are both Steel-type and Rock-type. So, the best types to use for the battle would be Pokemon, as well as moves that are Ground-type, Fighting-type, Fire-type, Water-type, and Steel-type. But since he has a few Psychic-type Pokemon, the other thing that would be great to have, but is optional, is Dark-type and Ghost-type. So, use any of these Pokemon, or a team of any of these types I said, and for the battle, you should be golden. Oh, thank Arceus, I just remembered! Before we moved on, I want you all to beware of both Steven's Skarmory and his Claydol. These are some of the most annoying Pokemon in his fight, mainly for the fact that Steven knows that offense isn't everything. Not just is defense good, but also having a couple of traps for the battle can really help you out. And that's what both Skarmory and Claydol do. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, when Steven Stone sends out Skarmory, try that tongue twister 3 times fast. Anyway, when Steven Stone sends out Skarmory, it has the ability Sturdy, so even if you hit this Pokemon with a super effective move, it'll survive with 1 HP. And it also has 2 rather annoying moves that can really hurt you, being both Toxic and Spikes. Toxic will really hurt you every turn, as the poison will get worse and worse. And with the move Spikes, you better have a Pokemon that has the move Rapid Spin to get rid of these Spikes. Or you're really gonna have to take this battle to the sky, because all your Pokemon that step on the floor will be hurt losing HP. When Steven Stone sends out his Claydol, heed my advice. Get rid of that thing immediately. While it may not be his ace Pokemon, Claydol just might be Steven's most annoying Pokemon and best strategist on his team. Claydol has both moves, Reflect and Light Screen. With the move Light Screen, it raises Steven's team's special defense for 5 turns. And when it uses Reflect, the defense stat also gets raised for 5 turns. Even your most super effective moves will be cut in half, so this will really slow you down. If you have a Pokemon with the move Brick Break, I suggest after these moves are used, destroy both the barriers, and finally, you'll be able to get back on track. The last thing we're going to cover are the items that you'll need for Steven Stone's champion battle. As he's the champion, it's an all or nothing battle. But before the battle, stock up on revives, hyper potions, max potions, and full restores. If you have any max revives on you, use them in this fight. I would also suggest to use any item that restores PP, but most of all, remember that Steven has a few moves that can poison you, so be sure to get yourself items that cure poison, like antidotes, full heals, and lava cookies. Also, Pekka berries and Lum berries would be helpful. Get yourself all these items and use the Pokemon as well as the moves, and you'll be ensured victory! I'm glad to say, Steven Stone is my favorite champion. It's just sad that so few take notes from him. He's an amazing champion, and I also respect the fact that he doesn't use any Dragon-type Pokemon, and he doesn't just go for the offense. He's learned that with good defense, you can be just as powerful.
Isn't he just the best? He's honestly up there as a champion with a ton of class. I especially love his admiration for his hobbies.
I agree with you, Sassafras. We've never had a champion that has hobbies. It's really cool to see he adds his hobbies to his team. We know that Steven is a stone collector, and he's a fossil collector, and adding prehistoric Pokemon to his team is a really nice touch.
Style, class, geology, love and respect for his Pokemon, the list can go on and on about just how amazing he is. He is especially amazing in his appearance, with those special episodes about Mega Evolution. Such a blast.
Without a doubt, it was only a matter of time before the man of stones himself got a Mega Stone. While many champions go for firepower and strong Pokemon, Steven Stone is probably the strongest for being a person that uses prehistoric power, great defenses, and plenty of steel and rock types for his team. You'll never take on a champion more solid than the man of stones himself, Steven Stone.
Man, I just love Steven Stone to bits. I could talk on and on about just how amazing this man is. What do you admire about him?
I know, right? Steven Stone is a really great champion, and I love the way that he battles. I also admire the fact that he's not all about firepower and strength. Instead, he's about defense and durability, and it really shows with his entire team and what he uses. Also, with that incredible defense and durability tactic, that's one of the main reasons why Steven Stone is my favorite champion of all time.
Yeah, and as a woman of science myself, I appreciate the recognition of the field geology mixed into his rock and steel type theming.
I also really like the fact that Steven uses fossil Pokemon on his team with both Armaldo and Credilli. Being a fossil lover myself, it's great to see someone who not only respects the past, but also puts it on their team. Being a person who uses prehistoric power instantly gets a vote in my book.
Let's not forget about the other members of the team too. Then we'd have to not forget their awesome trainer Steven Stone, of course. Just an overall round of applause for them.
Hey Professor, before we end, why don't we ask all the trainers out here a few questions about Steven and the other champions?
Sounds like a plan, Palm. Let's see what they think.
Well, trainers, when you took on Steven Stone at the Evergrande City in any of the games, was it a fun battle or was it a hard battle? Also, was he a bit of a pushover because you knew what to expect, or did he give you a very good final battle? Also, did you emerge victorious, or did you lose a few times and you had to get the right Pokemon before you finally ended the battle in victory?
Do you admire that Steven doesn't use any Dragon-type Pokemon for his champion battle? Or do you think he needs one?
Do you think that Steven Stone deserved to appear more in the anime, or do you think that his few appearances he had was enough?
Out of all 11 champions we had so far from Kanto to Paldea, who do you think is the best? And who's the worst?
Do you think that Steven Stone has a solid team, or do you think that it could be better? Also, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, do you like the fact that he added Mega Evolution to his team, or were you not much of a fan of that?
And if you were a champion, would you have a mixed team like Cynthia, or use a team of a fixed type? What would you use and why?
Thanks a lot for covering Steven Stone with me, Professor Sassafras. This was an amazing idea of yours. We Are the Champions is a lot of fun. While we may have to end now, I want to say that I had a wonderful time with you, and I hope to see you again for another episode of We Are the Champions, or for another episode about a Pokemon line. Till then, take care, my friend.
Always a blast to have an excuse to talk, gush, and fangirl over an awesome guy like Steven. Anyways, I gotta get going. See you next time, Palm. I hope you and all the trainers out there have an awesome day.
Catch you later, champ. Well, trainers, if you liked what you saw, then please leave a like. If you have any questions, you want to answer any of the questions Professor Sassafras and I threw out just now, you want us to collaborate for another champion video or do another Pokemon collaboration, you want me to talk about another Pokemon line, or you want me to talk about something Pokemon related, then please comment. And as always, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. I also hope that you share these videos with all other trainers out there. Professor Sassafras and I want to talk to as many trainers as we can. Thanks for watching, future champions. Palm out!